Sure. Let's dive into the core of how our mind really works. Have you ever wondered why some ideas stick while others just vanish? In this part, Shahram Taraghi says, the divisions I am going to explain are purely based on my personal research. In fact, I have tried to outline a specific method for using the brain effectively. It is important for you to know that you also need to use each part of your brain correctly and try to understand my explanations in whatever order or way makes sense to you. The human brain consists of two levels, superficial access and deep access. We can consider superficial access as using the right hemisphere of the brain and deep access as using the left hemisphere. Have you ever thought about this? As you can see, to reach deep access, we first rely on superficial access or the initial use of the right hemisphere. However, the groups that can be associated with these two levels are common, and what differs is the degree to which each person uses these groups. At each level, these groups are divided into three parts. Let me ask you a question, Ats. What really happens in our memory during our daily routines? The first group refers to information reception or short-term memory in the superficial access part of the brain. In the second part of the brain, known as deep access, it is called long-term memory or information storage. Let's examine these groups in the two parts of the brain with a simple example. We will use images constructed from human memory to study different parts. The right hemisphere is introduced as superficial access, while the left hemisphere is examined as deep access. Here, the two parts of the brain need to be analyzed in three stages. The first stage of superficial access is the reception of information. For example, imagine a person enters a supermarket and buys a product. Will the address of the store remain in their memory? At this stage, no, because the person has no plan to retain the supermarket's address in their mind. The information of the space they saw is still stored in the left hemisphere of the brain, just like all other trivial daily information. Do you know what the interesting part is? If someone asks the person where they bought that product, it is very likely they will forget or fail to recall. Over time, the memory will quickly leave their mind. This stage is called short-term memory. Information remains in the right hemisphere very briefly without being organized for analysis. However, if the person performs a small categorization in their mind, they can store it in long-term memory for a longer period, allowing them to use it more effectively. Information enters the left hemisphere in a more organized way. For instance, after leaving the store, a person may remember neighboring shops or associate a landmark with the store, storing it in long-term memory, thinking to themselves, this store is between the fruit shop and the bakery, or across from the bus station. The use of short-term and long-term memory is this simple, and everyone who succeeds in their work and life uses their memory in this way. Why is everyone so interested in this issue? Sometimes, when you are watching a movie with friends or playing a brain game, you may notice that your friend is more focused than you, or perhaps more distracted. The level of attention in specific situations reflects effective use of memory. It is truly fascinating how a small mental categorization can change everything, isn't it? Let's explore the next interesting part in our upcoming session to see how these levels go even deeper. Don't miss the next episode.